Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mayday Network. I'm Michelle Kinney. I'm here with the one and only Julie Roginski. This is the Dispatch, where we try to bring you stories almost every day that we think you should care about or know about. And today we have come across a breaking news story reported by Wired.com about Peter Thiel.
But not just Peter Thiel, Michelle.
No. He's the head of the snake here. Yeah. He's the head of the snake here. It's hard to even just know where to be. We're going to go through the article, first of all, just so everybody can see it. I do believe this is not behind a paywall on Wired.com. I can try and drop the link in the chat. And I know everybody's asking everybody to subscribe to everything lately, but let me just tell you, if you have a couple extra dollars, Wired.com is doing the best tech reporting anywhere. They are breaking stories like this, and they deserve our attention, our dollars, if you can spare them. They're doing great reporting. Before we get started here, Julie, how you doing?
I'm good. This is a crazy story, Michelle, and you called me and said, "Holy shit, did you see the story?" And I said I had not, and you read it to me, and we just thought we had to go live with this tonight because it's just crazy train.
It is crazy train. It's the kind of thing that we didn't want to leave until tomorrow. And before I throw this up on screen as well, in my experience, and Julie, I'm sure you've seen the same in your career in politics, especially, there is a certain level of wealth and power that exists in a place that none of us will ever touch. We'll never see it. We'll never be a part of it. And while they may be leaning left and right, there really isn't any sort of core political belief system. It's really just about protecting their power and their wealth. And that is real. That's not a conspiracy theory. I've seen it myself. I'm sure you have too, Julie. And that's why the bipartisan nature in which there are names in this secret society article that we're going to talk about, that was kind of shocking to read at first, but at the same time, actually not so shocking when you really get down to it. So this is not a conspiracy theory, guys. This is real. And I'm just let's begin to walk through this. This was reported around 4:30. It's too tiny for me to be able to see. From Wired.com. To the right, you see a picture of Peter Thiel, who is the tech overlord, part of the original PayPal mafia, and all around evil genius.
I think before we even get to this article, Michelle, I think we should just set the template here for what is going on.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel is not just the founder of PayPal. He's not just a member of the PayPal mafia, along with a bunch of these other guys who have found themselves in the Trump orbit, including Elon Musk. Peter Thiel was basically the first guy in Silicon Valley to endorse Trump. He was the first guy of that ilk back in 2016 to endorse him. He spoke at the Republican National Convention, and it was kind of a big deal back then. He also brought down Gawker. If people remember Gawker. Now, I was not a huge fan of Gawker. They were pretty mean and nasty. Having said that, what he did was pretty amazing. He used Hulk Hogan to sue Gawker because they had outed Peter Thiel. So he used this front man and Hulk Hogan in order to take down Gawker. I say that because this is what Peter Thiel does. Peter Thiel himself is not the guy who's ever out front, but he uses people who are out front to do his dirty work. Most tellingly, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was a nobody until Peter Thiel found him. J.D. Vance was a Yale Law School guy who wrote a book. He was an author, so were a lot of other people, until Peter Thiel hired him to work for him at Palantir, or one of his affiliated companies. At the same time, he hired a guy named Blake Masters, who you all remember also ran for Senate in 2022 from Arizona. And I think for Peter Thiel, like a lot of these investment guys, he was going to put his money into a whole bunch of startups and see which one took off, right? Like, you put $1 million here, $1 million there.
Yeah,
and
you place bets on bets on resources and you hope one of them
and hope
wins.
one of them, yeah, hope one of them pays off. In this case, J.D. Vance paid off and that he won in Ohio only after Peter Thiel spent an inordinate amount of money
Mhm.
getting him elected. J.D. Vance was not going to win if not for Peter Thiel. And
Oh,
then
yeah. The
after
single
that,
largest political donation in Senate race history. It was
right.
$15 million. Yeah.
And then what's even more telling is that, of course, J.D. Vance had been there for about 5 seconds until all of a sudden he became Donald Trump's um, Donald Trump's running mate, which is also, I think, very fascinating because it's just not something that would normally happen. You got to wonder why. Like, what was given to Donald Trump
Mhm.
to pick Vance? And it's not that Vance knew how to speak to Appalachia, because Donald Trump knows how to speak to Appalachia. And it's not
Please.
that Vance needed, to be the Gen X, the millennial that Donald Trump was going to appeal to, because I don't think JD Vance brought anything to Donald Trump. So you got to wonder, why exactly did Donald Trump pick JD Vance? I think this is all starting to come into effect here. By the way, JD Vance, along with Tucker Carlson, Rebecca Mercer, Peter Thiel, and a bunch of other people, using Peter Thiel's and Rebecca Mercer's money, launched something that is a very long-term project. He did this in 2020 after Trump lost the election. That was going to be a long-term project. That was basically going to be MAGA after Trump, how they were
Mhm.
going to take over the country post-Trump.
Yep.
And I want to say all of this, Michelle, because what we're about to talk about right now is obviously that, that phrase in media res, when you come into a story in the middle of the action. What we've been talking about JD Vance and everything else before, that's clearly the story of coming in the middle of the action.
Mhm.
Because the action obviously has been going on since 2006. It's been going on for 20 years. And that I will stop talking and you can talk about this article. But it's just insane how long this has been going on for.
It is. And at first, when I first read it, I was like, wait a second. I didn't already know about this, right? And I didn't. And I actually saw it post in additionally after the fact in a couple group chats that I was in. And everyone just like, holy shit. Because it seems like one of those like early 2000s movies about like Matt Damon or whatever, like joining some secret society where they're all naked and like flick each other in the balls or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you think about these things kind of in an abstract way. But in reality, these things do exist. Maybe not the ball stuff, but there is some weird cult sex stuff here, and we're going to talk about that briefly as well because it is mentioned. I do want to give props to the reporters here. Del Cameron and Yulia Almazova are the two reporters on
Who
this
is
story.
a fellow? Good for her. She's not even a working journalist. She's a fellow Wire. I mean, she's a working
Oh wow,
journalist.
I didn't know that.
Young,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow, I didn't know
Yep.
that. Well, props to them for this excellent reporting. On this first slide, the headline here is Leak exposes members of Peter Thiel's secretive Dialog Society. More than 200 of the world's elites registered for a retreat whose agenda from cult building and sex to prepping for World War III. An associated app offers matchmaking. So, as we get into this here, let me get to the second. And I really do want people to see all of this. It does require us kind of walking through this. So it says a trove of internal records from a secret society for powerful figures in US politics, finance, and tech was left exposed online. Wired has confirmed naming participants in its events and revealing sensitive personal details they were assured would stay private. So none of these people ever thought any of us would find any of this out. Going on here, it says the group called Dialog is a private invitation only organization co founded in 2006 by the billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel. Convenes US officials, foreign government figures, and Silicon Valley executives at off the record annual retreats. Dialog has spent 2 decades declining to disclose its members. A directory in the website's code was first revealed by the Swiss hacktivist I don't know how to say this. Do you know how to say this, Julie?
Maya Arsen Krimu? I don't even know,
I
but
know.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Your guess is good as mine. Known for exposing the U.S. government's no-fly list and breaching the surveillance camera company Verkada. Krimu tells Wired the directory surfaced via anonymous, independently verified its contents. Yeah. So a source separately provided Wired with the registration list for Dialog's 2026 retreat, which names 222 people and records what the list describes as each registrant's membership status and attendee type, including quote unquote active member and quote unquote guest. The retreat is scheduled for August 12th through 16th at a venue near Dublin, Ireland. That's happening this year. The same data lays out a program of off-the-record sessions, including money, parentheses, does, and parentheses, buy happiness, bring back nuclear, navigating World War III, battlefield technologies, and how's your sex life? Other talks include quote unquote build a cult, moderated by the founder of the Christian networking site pray.com, and quote unquote build a party, run by a former White House national security official. Let's just stop there for a second because this is a lot. This is a lot.
By the way, you know who it's just what's fascinating about this is that these people are planning for end times, and not in a religious sense.
Mhm.
In a, we are building bunkers for ourselves. Peter Thiel is now most recently building a bunker for himself and has moved to Argentina. He's also got a place in New Zealand. He's also got a place, I believe, I forgot where, like Mallorca or somewhere, but somewhere in Europe. But the bottom line is he's claiming that he's leaving the United States because it's too dangerous to stay here now.
Bullshit.
They're,
although maybe not bullshit for him.
Well, not bullshit.
Yeah.
I think they're planning for
Mhm.
World War III, and I think they're planning for nuclear war. And I think that they're not just planning for it, they're obviously agitating for it since they want to bring back nuclear. And I don't think they were talking about nuclear energy.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah. And also, this is the same Peter Thiel who's been giving weird speeches. I wrote a whole Substack about this, and I urge people to read his speeches because they're nuts, because they were leaked. His speeches, at least in California, were leaked about the Antichrist. I mean, all of this is very bizarre.
Can I play something really quick?
Of course.
Hold on.
Peter Thiel knows about the Antichrist. Peter Thiel knows about the Antichrist.
I'm Peter Thiel and I know about the Antichrist.
Let's learn about the Antichrist today.
Hello kids, I'm Peter Thiel and I'm here to talk to you about the Antichrist.
South Park.
South Park does it again. Okay, but the funny thing is, like, South Park is making fun of it, but the reality is, if you read his actual speeches about the Antichrist,
yeah,
everything that you would consider to be the opposite of the Antichrist, I guess not the Christ, because Christ has already happened, but like anybody you would consider to be a good human being is who Peter Thiel says is the Antichrist.
Yep.
Like, he is leaning into what I think anybody of any kind of, real biblical persuasion who doesn't pervert it for his own weirdo evil means, but anything about empathy and love and so on, like, that's who you would think, that's what he would think is the Antichrist. I mean, the point is, this is a strange guy, but so I don't want to dwell too much on Peter Thiel, because I think what's so fascinating about this is who is part of his little mafia. And you guys prepare to be blown away.
Yeah, prepare for it to shooketh. Let me see. This is, yes, we already read that. Okay. Together, back to the article, alongside the mundane fare of a typical thought leadership conference, the documents show an extraordinary convergence of power. The registration records list General Alexis Grinkowicz, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Europe and the head of U.S. European Command, who took the post in July 2025 and is recorded on the leaked list of having attended Dialog gatherings since 2021. The website directory names sitting Trump administration officials, 2 senators, 6 members of the PayPal mafia, which, if you look at that list, it's not hard to figure out which ones, a former Middle East chief of intelligence, and a sitting ambassador to the United States, along with the founders and directors of many of the country's largest surveillance, data broker, and advertising data companies. Those executives appear side by side with senior U.S. officials overseeing their industries. Orrin Hoffman, Dialog's chairman, founded the location data broker SafeGraph and the identity resolution firm LiveRamp, 2 of the most important suppliers in the consumer data economy. He appears in the directory alongside Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, whose department writes the rules on financial data, and Senator Ted Cruz, chairman of the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, which oversees the Federal Trade Commission and its Data Privacy Authority. Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale, whose software runs case management for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and data fusion for the Pentagon and intelligence community, is listed in the same society as Army Secretary Dan Driscoll and Representative Democrat Jim Himes, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, which oversees agencies Palantir contracts with.
Now, we have interviewed Jim Himes twice on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to bring Jim Himes back.
Yeah.
He's willing to answer a few questions about this. Now, I don't think he will want to come back, but I would dearly love to have him back for a few tough questions about what the hell he's doing, hanging out in this weirdo cabal.
Well, I remember back earlier this year, he was like one of the only Democrats that was coming out talking about surveillance. No, let's keep surveillance. And everyone was like, huh? And here's a headline here from Wired.com. I believe this is in March, and it's a picture of Jim Himes here from Connecticut. A top Democrat is urging colleagues to support Trump's spy machine. Congressman Jim Himes claims a sweeping surveillance authority should stay intact because he hasn't seen abuses by Kash Patel's FBI. What? I mean, this is crazy. And then going into, there's another article here. Let me see. Donations from Palantirs to Connecticut lawmakers spark outcry. This is from February of this year. 2 senators and a congressman from Connecticut are facing criticism from immigrant rights advocates for accepting campaign contributions from a tech company assisting federal deportation efforts. Just FYI, in addition to Jim Himes here, is Senators Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal. Alarming.
Yeah, but at least Murphy and Blumenthal are not hanging out.
Well, yeah, they're not listed. Just
as far as
not listed. Well, yeah. I mean, here's again, like they only really tell us in this article, which we'll bring back up here in a second. They only give us a handful of names. The rest of them are just kind of like titles, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's going to be a drip. I don't know. But yeah, this is bananas, guys. And there's something about Jim Himes that I was always just like, I don't know, but now it's all kind of coming together. Back to this article here. It says none of the individuals named in this story responded to requests for comment, I'm sure. Rafi Grinberg, who lists himself as Dialog's executive director in his LinkedIn profile and is the author of the self-help book, How to Be a Grown-Up, did not respond to a request for comment. The registration records appear to show not only who belongs to Dialog, but who attends. Of the 222 people signed up for the 2026 retreat, according to the leaked records, 87 are marked as first-time attendees. Others list histories stretching back more than a decade, and a handful of the society's founding 20 years ago. None of the registrants, Grinkowicz included, used a government email address, all registered with personal or corporate accounts, placing their attendance outside the email system subject to public records laws.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, because I assume
No.
it wasn't a public
No.
attendance thing. If they had used their
Right.
government email addresses, that actually would have been wrong.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, there are people here who are shocking. Jonathan Greenblatt, the chair of the executive director of the Anti-Defamation League. Now, I remember the Anti-Defamation League used to do good work. They have lately gotten a little Trumpy for me.
Yeah, a lot Trumpy. I mean, when his name jumped off the page at me, I was like, holy moly. So it says, what ties the roster together more than any title or office is a shared preoccupation with artificial intelligence, longevity, which they all seem super obsessed with, and the near future. Asked on a sign-up form to predict the future, registrants returned again and again to the same theme, that AI will reorder work, war, education, and belief within a few years. Several foresee mass labor displacement and a swing back toward unions and government programs. Others predict an AI winter, domestic terrorism targeting data centers, criminal defendants choosing AI lawyers over public defenders, or religious revival provoked by the disruption.
I mean, I read that and I kind of laughed, because we all think this. Like, choose your own adventure. Like, we all acknowledge that AI is going to reorder work. We're all preoccupied with the near future. I mean, of course we are. Like,
right. I mean, like, that's kind of how we get.
Why do you raise your children if not to, be preoccupied with the near future, what happens to them?
Right.
So it's not like we're, who's not preoccupied about what the future holds for all of us, whether it's at work or personally or anything else. So that to me was kind of hilarious. AI is everywhere. So of course, and this runs the gamut of what they think is going to happen with AI. But, what I think is so bizarre about this is this confluence of people who you don't necessarily think are going to be hanging out with each other. And why are they all hanging out with Peter Thiel? And why has this been going on since 2006? And who the hell else was involved in this going back to 2006? We're all sitting around here talking about Project 2025, how smart the Republicans were to start Project 2025 as soon as Trump left the White House. This has been going on for 20 years, friends. 20.
Yep. And there's this sinisterness to all of it too that really just makes me so uneasy, especially with this last line here. It says, societal degeneration, predicted one person, will continue to accelerate. Didn't like that. Members also list talents like funhouse construction, accent imitation, backcountry skiing, urban exploration, and quote, meditative and psychedelic inquiry into the nature of reality. I'm assuming that's like ayahuasca or something like that. One offers, quote, compassion and existential dread. Another, dinner parties, keeping secrets, remembering birthdays. Their book recommendations skew toward the
canonical
and optimization-minded. Marcus Aurelius and Milan Kundera, hope I'm saying that right, alongside Annie Duke's Thinking in Bets. Peter Attia's Outlive, who, by the way, we found out recently is in the Epstein files, and from at least one attendee, Thiel's own 0 to 1.
So could I just talk about this for a second? I have never met a more annoying group of readers and thinkers other than 15-year-old intellectual boys than this. So it used to be that they used to read Atlas Shrugged, right? But alongside that, they're also reading Marcus Aurelius, because of course they are, because of course Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, it's like the pseudo-intellect. For guys who think about the Roman Empire a lot, of course you read Marcus Aurelius. And then Milan Kundera, The Unbearable Lateness of Being is a fantastic book. It is a book about, it's an existential book, but it's also about what was going on in Czechoslovakia during the Soviet occupation, which makes it so ironic to me that this is the group of people who are like, are they not self-aware? For anybody who's read Milan Kundera, tell me, what you think about this, but it's just, they're so pseudo intellectual, these people.
Oh
And
God,
what this
yeah.
tells me? Like, who has time on their hands to sit around and do shit? Like these people are jetting off to conferences with each other to talk about how they're going to make the little people, which is all of us who have to work a job to meet a paycheck, like we're all disposable. They're the great thinkers in
Oh
their
yeah.
mind. They're the
Mhm.
great thinkers. The rest of us are just working. We're the little worker bees. We're the people we're the rats on the wheel.
This is where
Yeah.
this is where I come back to that Curtis Yarvin, who by the way, we just haven't talked about, and I say we just collectively. He's kind of fallen off the map, but I guarantee this guy's still hanging around. He's been around. He's the ideological guru for Peter Thiel. JD Vance swears by him, and he was at all, the White House inaugural events and everything else. And he had a theory about that we should all be basically peasants, living in a society where there are CEOs instead of presidents. And this is why they want to take over places like Iceland, to kind of start these new network states. And this has all been a part of this as well. And Curtis Yarvin says that they eventually, once you become a non productive member of society, they'll turn your body into biodiesel to run the buses and the trains and all the transportation. Like, this isn't fake. Like, this has happened. This is happening. That's who these people are. That's what they think about the rest of us. And while we're out here trying to make a living, raise our kids, keep a roof over our head, and of late, fight with people from the other side, the reality of the whole thing is there's these people up here, like the people on this list, and they're looking down at us, fighting each other while they take over the universe. And like, I wish that more people kind of understood that. And listen, I think about this UFC fight a couple days ago, how insane it was, and like horrifying and offensive and all of these things. But at the same time, I'm like, I see these people out here going to bat for these tech overlords and Donald Trump and and I'm like, do you see?
But don't you, like, doesn't this make sense to you? Donald
Yeah.
Trump is their moron child who you give
Mhm.
a UFC fight to keep him occupied while they,
Right.
in their mind, have their little secret meetings to really figure out how the world works.
Serena Williams' husband was there, by the way.
Not surprised. He's part of that mafia.
Yeah,
He's a
he
Silicon Valley
read it.
guy.
Yeah.
And, we sit around and we always talk about how conspiracy theories and QAnon and so on and so forth. But like, while everybody was, chasing this little shiny QAnon object,
Mhm.
this is actually happening. These people are
Yeah.
actually getting together to figure out how to intellectualize World War III
Mhm.
and going nuclear more and more. And how does money make you, money does buy you happiness. Well, yeah, no
Mhm.
shit.
Yeah.
For you,
I
it does,
mean,
because it allows you the luxury
right.
of sitting around and in a circle jerk, sorry, Dad, while you're all sitting there mentally masturbating over whatever, thought comes into your 12-year-old boy mind.
Mhm.
Because one of you has read Marcus Aurelius
Right.
or Ayn Rand or whatever you've all read, and you've been so impressed by it that you're in your stunted growth mentality. You don't know how to give back to the world. This is how you think you're giving back to the world, by imposing your genius on the rest of us.
Right. Which, by the way, they all hate women. Just FYI. They openly talk about it. Peter Thiel has spoken for quite some time about how he doesn't think the 19th Amendment should exist, that he doesn't think women have any other purpose in this world other than to just have babies and create more human beings. I'm sure white human beings, because again, let's go back to Peter Thiel's origin story. He's a German, kid who moves to the United States for a very brief period of time, but spends his formative years in a place in like the south of the African continent, which has a long name that I can't pronounce. But in the 70s when he was growing up. This was one of the last places, if not the last place on earth, where people were still throwing up Heil Hitler salutes to each other at the gas station. And he went to a private school during that period of time and then moved to the United States. And he has made a lot of this his mission. He's racist, he's misogynistic, and which it's just funny to me. I mean, this is a gay man with children who holds all of these beliefs and can't put words together. So, by the way, if you've ever seen an interview with Peter Thiel, he's asked a question. He's like, and this is why he puts people out in front, right?
Yeah.
This is why he likes people like JD Vance.
It's Namibia is the place you're thinking of, but yeah.
Yes, but the town itself, like it has a long name.
It's like Swa. I can't remember. Some
yeah.
Wagapol or some I don't know, some Afrikaner name that I can't pronounce. But but basically apartheid South Africa, where people were literally doing the Heil Hitler at gas stations.
Yep. And there is a story in the New York Times about this, so I invite people to go find this because it does exist. It's from I think 1978.
He is like a Bond villain. Somebody says this. Alex Katsanos says this. He is like a Bond villain, except that there was a time when the government would try to get Bond villains. Now, it's the government embraces these Bond villains. I mean, I thought about this today. I don't know why this occurred to me, but I was thinking about this today. Elon Musk has made so much money on this IPO, and he has killed so many people by taking away USAID in the process. Like, it is just amazing. On the one hand, he is getting richer and richer, and on the other hand, he is killing millions upon millions of people.
And he's getting away with it.
And he's getting away with it because, and you know why he's getting away with it? Because we think, oh, the Democrats are going to come back to power and they're going to take over and they're going to hold these guys accountable. Sorry, not when the chair of the Intelligence Committee is hanging out at these little shindigs. Who else is hanging out there?
Right. And you have to wonder, is that how he got there in the first place? Like, you know what I mean? Like where does this begin and where does it end? And you look at somebody like Elon Musk, again, who was being interviewed in the weeks leading up to the 2024 election, specifically in an interview he did with Tucker Carlson, where he said basically that if Trump doesn't win this election, he's screwed. And now his what are the more recent baby mamas, Ashley Sinclair is on a media tour right now, telling anybody who will listen that he was openly bragging about doing something with satellites and the election. And this is her words. She's the one saying this. And that she said to Elon Musk, do I really want to know about this? Plausible deniability. And he said to her, and I'm paraphrasing, yeah, that's probably a good idea. And one has to wonder. And I for the longest time, I felt like I just had this like tinfoil hat on about a lot of this stuff. And I'm like, no. But you have to wonder, like the evilness of these people and what they have stood to gain from it, especially from Doge. And I mean, like Doge was not an agency. It wasn't a department. It was It was an attack on the United States of America from within, is what it was.
Yeah, because the whole point was not to cut anything. The whole point was for them to get all of our information, all of which they have.
All of it, yeah, which they all have.
All of which they have.
And there's been
let's off the grid, which is nobody who's watching this because you're not off the grid,
right? And there's been, I mean, in like our social security numbers, our bank account. I mean, this is why these whistleblowers, right, are being threatened. They're being followed. I mean, there was one whistleblower that was part of this Doge situation who came forward with the help of Whistleblower Aid on Rachel Maddow and said that, you know, he had moved recently. Nobody knew where he had moved to. He hadn't told anyone. It wasn't on his paycheck. Like there's no way anyone could have known where he was. And yet there was a letter taped to his front door and there were drones following him while he was walking his dog. That's what this all is. Yeah. Like and then you read a story like this in wired.com today and you're like, It's just more dots that are being connected. And let me throw you what else here. Just really quick here, Dialog also plays matchmaker. Its participant form asks registrants whether they are looking for love and offers to include single man, single woman, or other respondents in future matchmaking. A separate site, dating.dialog.org, hosts an app pitched as meaningful connections for exceptional people. The form also gathers sensitive answers, including each registrant's political leaning, which Dialog promises, quote, will not, all caps, be shared in the app or with other participants ever. Sure. That data and the matchmaking responses were exposed in the leak. The records sit in Airtable, a commercial database.
They're an Airtable.
It's an Airtable. I was like,
these
what?
geniuses who are trying to keep everything quiet are putting everything in Airtable.
Right. Airtable. When I saw that, I was like, that can't be that Airtable. There's another Airtable, right? I'm like, no, it's that Airtable.
It's that Airtable.
For each participant, Dialog logs a membership status, every retreat the person has attended, a biography, a home city, and a private access token. Wired is not publishing the tokens, which function as login credentials or the personalized account links that contain them. The leaked registration list also names senior figures absent from the public directory. Of 113, Randy Krosner, a former governor of the Federal Reserve, who now serves on the Bank of England's Financial Policy Committee, Hallie Hoffman, a former general counsel and acting chief of staff of the Drug Enforcement Administration, Jonathan Greenblatt, oh my God, the chief executive of the Anti-Defamation League, Peter Gottler, the president of the Cato Institute, Ryan Stowers, the executive director of the Charles Koch Foundation, and Roger Myerson, a Nobel laureate economist at the University of Chicago.
I mean, it is particularly ironic to me that Jonathan Greenblatt, whose job is to fight anti-Semitism, is hanging out with Peter Thiel, who, you know, so look, I don't know what there is to belabor this other than to say, friends, we are so screwed unless we get a hold of this.
Yep.
We cannot sit around here waiting for our Democratic leaders to get a grip, because look what's going on. Look who's there.
Look how well funded they are and how well organized they are and how, like the whole thing is wrapped up in a bow for themselves.
Yep.
And this is why I bring it back to like this elite, right? There people talk about the elite. It exists. It's the big families who are, descendants of magnates and whatever else, right?
Well, it used to be, not anymore. I mean,
well,
these people are not.
I mean, they are still. And they're part of like the society part of it, right? Because there is like a social structure to all of this. And, this person over here might have given $10 million to Donald Trump, and that person over there gave $5 million to Hillary Clinton. But at the end of the day, they're all friends and they all went to school together. So they're, we're all just going to get along. And because it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I remember hearing that a lot back in the days, like, oh, they don't care. And I'm like, stop. Yeah, people have to have morals. They don't, not really, because nothing will stand in the way of them making money or, holding on to their status in the world. And listen, I'm sure that if you look through the crowd at Donald Trump's inaugural balls, you would see people that you'd be very surprised because they stand to do business with the administration, or their family, has something with the administration or whatever it is, because, he's just president. This is the institution. We're just respecting. Bullshit. It's all the same stuff. And some people get rich and buy into it, and some people are born into it. But it is an elite that you and I, none of us here will ever understand or ever be a part of. And these other people who look down on us or see us as tools, to serve them in some way. And we are expendable. They don't care if we live, if we die. They're going to continue to build these data centers that are making people drink dirty, disgusting water and create so much sound that people are losing their minds. Their health is suffering. It's they're torturing the American people, and it's only going to get worse unless we do something about this. What that is, Julie, I don't know. I don't know. Do you have
Well,
any ideas?
the
Because
one thing I would say is stop looking at people's, and I say this as a Democrat, and I say this as somebody who's given my life to the Democratic Party. Friends, stop looking at the letter that they have after their last name. Start looking for accountability. So, in other words, Jim Himes, I invite you to back on the show. You've been here twice. I invite you back a third time. Explain yourself, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to
Explain
know.
yourself. Explain yourself.
I'm sure the people of Connecticut or whatever district it is that he represents would like to know as well.
Connecticut won.
Right,
Connecticut won.
which is a very affluent area, you know,
Yep.
and you know, I just want to see what else is here. This was interesting. The rest of the membership spans hedge fund, private equity billionaires, current and former foreign officials, network television actors. What?
Such as?
I would love to know. Best-selling authors and religious leaders.
So I want to know why Wired is not releasing the full list here, rather than making us guess. Release them.
I wonder why
Release
too.
it.
I'm sure it's their lawyers were like, you can't for this part.
Then tell us that your lawyers are not allowing you to do it. But it's interesting that they're letting them release some, but not all. And look, we don't need to belabor this again. It's late. We got to go. But the one thing I will say is there is a mindset here that is just completely contrary from what we're talking about. And for all, you know, somebody here is joking, Kevin Sorbo, not necessarily, because you've got people like Jim Himes here. So
no, not Kevin Sorbo.
For all I know, it's Brad Pitt. We don't know.
George Clooney.
For George Clooney, great. It could be George Clooney. Who knows?
These are powerful people. They're not going to let Kevin Sorbo in. Like he doesn't even fit the bill. Like
I'm pretty positive it's not Tony Danza, BGG, because he's too busy singing on my street corner. But look, I think the fundamentals here are that we need to wake the fuck up. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, all of us need to wake up.
Yep.
Because you think you're fighting for something, and in reality, you're being used by some of these people. Like, I've got to tell you, Jonathan Greenblatt, explain yourself, sir.
I'd love to know. And if I was a donor to the ADL, or if I was affiliated with the ADL, you better believe.
I used to be a donor to the ADL until they fought the mosque downtown. Then I stopped being a donor to the ADL, but that was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
But if I were still a donor to the ADL, I was on a conference call with Jonathan Greenblatt about a year or two ago, where he was going.
I remember making an ad for International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we called him because we wanted to, before we put it out, and it wasn't political. It talked about democracy and its relation to the Holocaust and what happened in the 30s and 40s in Germany. You know, and it's not that he said, no, don't put this out, but it was like, I remember his feedback being like, we don't get involved in things that are political. And like, you know, and we were just kind of like, I know that we're a political action committee, but.
Well, first of all, yes, they're a C3, so they can't get involved in anything political.
Right.
On the other hand,
we weren't asking him to like do the voiceover. We just wanted to like to show it to him and be like, you know, it's for International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Like, are we missing something? Or like, do you have any thoughts? And like, that was his thought. And like, that was the end of it. And we were like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, the reality is everything in life is political, friends, as evidenced by this. Do these people think that they're not being political?
Right. Everything about this is political.
This is just a confab. Everything is political.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just wanted, thank you, Michelle, for bringing this to my attention and to everybody else's attention. This is just extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. And I just want to say one thing so I don't forget this. On the point of everything is political, for the rich people who are asking for your money, whether they're entertainers or otherwise, and they're saying things to you like, I don't get into politics, or I'm not political, or I don't do these things, that is bullshit. All you have to do at that point is assume that they are MAGA and they are on the side of MAGA, because I'm going to tell everybody right now, if you like Nate Bargatze, the stand-up comedian, he was not only a couple months ago taking photographs with Marsha Blackburn in her office, but was at the UFC fight sitting behind Donald Trump and was taking pictures with RFK Jr. So understand that a lot of these comedians don't want to talk about it because they don't want you to know who they are. So look between the lines, look behind the people, and see what's going on, because nothing that we believe seems to be true anymore. So yeah.
Awful.
Mhm.
Awful. All right, friends. On that note, we'll be
Yeah.
back. We will at least continue to talk until they shut
Yeah.
off our internet.
Mhm.
Um,
So
and we appreciate everybody joining us. Michelle, thank you again for bringing this to us today. I'm listening to it along with everybody else. I maybe had about a half an hour preview for everybody else, but Michelle was the one that brought it to me. And she's the one that brought it to you tonight. So thank you, Michelle, and everybody else. Have a great rest of your day, night, wherever you may be. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
bye, everyone. Nixon 5. Bye.